the African and the African American as far as knowing how the African translated the Euro-American language so that his people would be able to understand in the beginning of the Middle Passage, where black people were created. It's something that has not been discussed, but has been to some degree contemplated. But to this point, in our struggle as Black African people, we have not been able to come up with how we were able to come up with translation. The European could not translate his language into our language, but our people could translate our language into theirs. And primarily, what we're dealing with here right now is how the Black African in captivity was able to translate our language into their language, and then be able to come up with a plan to subdue the Europeans and or organize themselves so that they would be able to get out of captivity. Dr. Sully is going to elaborate with us on this issue, and he's going to tell us how the Black African was able to translate that language.
All right, thank you very much, Professor Cross. First of all, Dr. Amos Mohammed Ulub Saleh from Liberia, West Africa, and I'm a vice president in the Blacology Research Development Institute. My brother has asked me a very significant historic question that I'm obligated to offer him the answer, and maybe we'll resolve some of the disparities that we face. There are many things that are not really the ideological folks or black people to read and understand. One of them is as a word of captivity unnegotiable from the African perspective, as to whether it was arranged for black people to voluntarily come forward here. These are some of the things that have not been explained to our people. Number two, how were these black captive people for communicating with one another or in a confined segment of the boat or of the vessels that were bringing in the diaspora, i.e. in North America? Those were very significant questions by my brother. And yet, mostly, well, I want to tell you that when they captured these brothers, our people, actually, there was a series of events in the process of recruitment. I want to say recruitment because certain Europeans would go to a certain village and request for an assistant of manpower from the chief, or from the king, or from the elder, and that he or she, especially he during those days, were coming over here in the New World. They didn't know that it would mean America in a way, and to develop where black Africans were being receptive to humanity, i.e., love all people, and our temple, our natural likeness for good things. One of our victims is one of our demise, actually, of what is happening to us today. So, giving that background, considering the fact that the elders were manipulated by the European, i.e., the captive head, we used to call them the master of the slaves, well, blackologically speaking, within the term slavery bias, the captive people were captive, black people were captive, black people were in captivity. When all went well with the European recruiter, but the elders, the original black African chief, was a very smooth transition, negotiation. For instance, Kendo Professor Cross, as a white man, you know I'm not white, can never be white. I never had a dream, I dream about white folks. So I came to Professor Cross and said, look, Prof, I want to develop certain projects. I need help. And
All right, it's going good.
I asked Professor Cross, Prof, give me some men to go and help me develop the institution of this industry. Professor Cross said, well, I have a certain group of strong young guys that can help you, but these young people are my only means of existence here to develop the crops and like the land. So I can only give you certain length of time so that you can send me my men back, be my individual back, because those are all I'm depending on, hypothetically. So I gave about 700 of the healthy, hard-working people that I had under my jurisdiction as their elders to give it to you. But doing that, I have to ask you to substitute for their effort with something. I have to have something where I'm using, where my folks who are producing similar things, what is serving you. So you say, well, what was that? So where their effort produced me uh, sugar, salt, uh, shovels, uh, enemies that I can construct buildings. So you went and produced salt, produce shovels, and stuff like that. So that how come you tell my men because you give me some sort of artificial substitution for those healthy men. But it might have been negotiated to be 6, 7 months to return those men to me. And why the men were gone? Now remember that from my coast area, like Liberian coast, they were not Liberia at the time, but that sea coast, the Atlantic Ocean coast, where Liberia is today, to another probate, i.e. Sierra Leone coast, or the African Gold Coast area, they pick up some people. Now remember that those people are picking up from that segment of the African continent or of the African coast speak different languages. So how will the people from the Liberian coast, i.e. the Atlantic Ocean coast area, the Kabale coast, the True River coast, okay, speak the same language that the Ivory Coast, the Kabale River coast, or the Nile River coast speak. So this is how the language, the sign language was developed. Sign language was developed in the condition of necessity. It was not developed through research. It was not developed through a smooth transitional situation. It was developed through necessity. Some language was developed through necessity. You have to communicate with one another. Now, the language that was common to the captive people was even in the Bar language or in the Madingo language or in the Federal language. If one did like this, the Arab means cut it off, stop it, abolish
Violate.
in any language for that matter. So if you head it off,
Okay.
if you do this, the Arab means stop, abolish, abandon, end it,
Okay.
all right?
Right. Right.
So that is natural. If the head off, that's it.
All right.
All right. So during captivity, the common language was transformed into the sign language that European people think they developed. And the VAR language, the VAR, is an African language was also developed. Okay?
Yeah.
That was the oldest language that was developed on the west coast of Africa, Liberia.
Violate the oldest
VAR,
language that we have developed.
VAR language is one of the oldest that was developed to sustain contemporary situation, i.e. World War II. The German and the American were struggling over communication situations. So the VAR language was used to translate some covert operation between the U.S. and the Germans.
Okay, Doc.
Right.
So now, I guess what I'm trying to pinpoint
Yeah,
is
yeah.
how were the Africans able to translate European language into African language by which they could understand what the European would say so that they could rebel or even survive in a system that was totally different from what they were used to.
Okay. Because some of the things would be naturally inherent into your psyche. If you're not over here in a confined area, going to no man's land,
All right.
and we were about 139 years,
Right.
one of us left by sign language for our captive said, come here.
Okay.
That is come.
Mm-hmm.
Come.
Mm-hmm.
That means to walk me
Mm-hmm.
is come. So somebody who can hear. That means you can understand what I'm saying. It says come. I look at your mouth
Mm-hmm.
with a sign here.
Right.
And you wait.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't see you again.
Okay.
African were not stupid people.
Okay.
The took you from among us. You have not returned, and we have not seen you. Geometrically speaking, we postulate, USTULAT, we conclude that you know more. Because it's been too long, we have not seen you.
Right.
You are with us,
Mm-hmm.
and the enemy call you, you know
Now,
more.
postulate is, in Mandingo or Bond. What's the word for that?
Venue Panabo, Venue Papo, yeah, Papo,
The I cool.
yeah, Papo. That means he fell it, he's not coming back. Ali, Papo. I've been done enough in bar.
All right.
I've been done enough.
Now, after the
He's
women,
gone, he's not coming back.
after the women, the husbands didn't come back,
Okay.
then they turned to the king.
Now,
for
in the context of the ground, of the main source of the problem in Africa,
Right.
after the strong men were took up, they took them all.
Right.
were taken off, the chief went and told their wives.
The wives didn't come to the chief first.
No, what happened? The men told their wives the chief want us to come. Because in Africa, you have a very strong voice if you're an elder, if you're in authority, if you have a voice. You can stop the whole movement and call for emergency meeting. People will come to you. Some white guy come on to collect taxes. He can send me, young boy, to go on the farm and call everybody to come. The chief cross wants everybody.
Right.
Like you saw on the thing, a matter of fact, stop.
No, I stopped it.
Okay, you saw
I
on that when the guy was doing the palm crowd with 40 people.
Right. Okay.
That's how it is.
Okay.
You send me as a town crowd for 40 people. Chief crowd wants people.
Okay.
Because the white boy wants something.
Right.
He will have to talk the head of the town.
Okay. So
And the head will send the boy WC to
right.
go on the very farm and call the people.
Now, was there any situation, in the beginning of the process of enslavement where the European was able to just bypass the chief, go into the hinterland or into the bush and get people without permission?
Or it happened after other segment knew that they were forcible. They were forcing them.
So after the time,
Yeah, after time, now if like when the women realized that their men were not coming back,
right,
it became an uprising on the Liberian coast.
okay,
The news got to the Ivorian coast
okay,
that there are certain people taking our men, they're not coming back.
okay, all right,
It became issue.
okay.
So then the chief and the elder there are no boys anymore. So the European cannot go to the elders at our coast anymore.
So
they can bypass him
all right.
and go inland.
So when the chief and the elders lost their voice in terms of being able to declare who could go and who could stay, because the women at this time they got to a point where, they couldn't believe the elders or the chief because their men hadn't came back.
Yeah.
When it got to be to that point, what did the European do? He still couldn't go into the hinterland, he couldn't go into the bush.
Where the Europeans are using the mechanized weapon. Europeans are shooting at the elders,
Okay.
start capturing the women.
Okay, all right.
Head of the women militant. That how come women got involved into the captive situation.
Okay.
Women that are robbed, they were captured by means of weapon.
Okay, right. Okay.
You saw women on the team, those are strong women.
All right.
Those are women that were fighting for their husbands.
Okay.
So we're not dealing with women.
Right.
Because during the Industrial Revolution here, it was for men. The Indian died off. They could not do the way that you and I can do our African.
Right, yeah.
So if the Indians die off,
right.
they're not going to touch women.
Mm-hmm.
They need strong, darker black men like you and I.
Right, somebody that can take some.
But then when the women were running them all fighting for their men, Europeans thought the women were too strong. They collected them. That was the women too.
Yeah.
Remember my father stone side.
All right.
That's how you got them here. There's no wound on the side.
That's interesting because that part of the story ain't never been told.
They will not tell you those things, but this here I'm telling you, it's not written in books.
Right.
Our elders tell us that.
Okay.
They on this video where the elders tell story to the kids.
Okay.
They on this particular video.
How the captivity and slavery was able to last so long.
Yeah, so long because Africa is so far away from here, and one you do not get the information, you don't know what's going on. One you don't know what's going on. Those who know what's going on, they can procrastinate and they can prolong the evil deeds.
Yeah, that's what happened.
Yes. Okay? So the sign language is universal anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Anywhere in the world, originating from the circumstances of the captivity.
All right.
There are no European, there are no sign language anywhere until on the side forcing human being from Africa. One of my students asked me, why is it I could not, it was difficult for me to answer the question from the young brother. I mean, that is the young African American history. Why is it slavery did not affect China? Why Europeans could not go to China, Japan,
That's a good question.
and capture them for African people,
Mm-hmm.
black people? Why?
Mm-hmm.
The girl asked me that question. And I have to think very fast to say that through the while telling him what fact was that because of black people receptiveness,
Mm-hmm.
you see, our nature,
We accepted them. We treat them like they
yes,
were visitors.
our nature of welcoming, inviting people
Mm-hmm.
to led to our demise.
Yeah.
When you open your house for people,
Yeah.
so come on in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Come on in. Have a seat. Sit down.
They're coming in not to respond to your invitation,
Mm-hmm.
but they watching something.
Yeah. They trying to take over.
Yes. And they try to also look for some of your secrets.
Okay.
Now, areas like South Africa were acquired by Europeans because they came in with the Bible,
Mm-hmm.
hoping
Yeah.
that they teaching them the Bible.
Yeah.
At the in the night,
That
when the
religious
white man,
insurrection.
white was teaching the African the Bible, the man was not there to teach them along with the white. He was down there irrigating the soil. Irrigation means taking the ground,
Right.
geologically speaking,
Right.
looking for the minerals.
Mm-hmm.
When you find minerals in where Johannesburg today, he took over there. Now the white man came and told his wife, well, you're teaching them the Bible. They got to move to Pretoria
Right.
or
Yeah.
Azami because the rich moved them to there. So the law said we should move somewhere. I hope people don't understand that.
The white
They
folks.
move because they are finding gold mines, minerals,
Okay.
and other things.
Okay. On the land where they live.
Yeah.
Not that they was trying to like give them better housing.
No, no, no.
They knew it was mineral resources.
Minerals,
So they
resource,
relocated them.
yeah,
to
they
get the
relocated
minerals.
them to area without minerals. They relocated them to areas without any resource. You see, so that's how people like the area like Johannesburg and those areas are rich areas because those are the areas that the Afrikaners decided to really position themselves in power. You got no power, political power, military power, and stuff like that. So in essence, actually, because what I'm trying to say is that sign language. Uh,
Turn on to make sure that it wasn't.
yeah, well,
There you go. Yeah.
oh yeah. You see, in essence, actually, because what I was saying is that uh, sign language is it going on back there?
Yeah, it's still funny.
Okay. They play because oh, we going to pick up my daughter from school. Sign language actually is not a European concept of communication. Sign language was developed into circumstance. Even the Holocaust, the sign language spoken
You
in
mean
the
the Black Holocaust?
the Black Holocaust. There are no Holocaust beside the Black Holocaust.
Well, the Jews claim that they got a Holocaust.
No, the Jews had a temporary Holocaust, but the African people Holocaust is a continuous.
Yeah, yeah,
There's a longer Holocaust
we
in our
still
life.
under oppression. It ain't ended. You know.
So the Jewish Holocaust was periodic. I mean, the Holocaust started in Germany with Hitler. It stopped.
Okay.
After 10 million Jews were killed.
Mm-hmm.
But our Holocaust started at the beginning of life and continued.
Yeah, according to John Henry Clark, our Holocaust started in the 15th and the 16th century. But even before that, Blacological research revealed that not only in the 15th and the 16th century, which was 1400, 1600, but even in the 1300s, that the Hispanics and the Portuguese had contracts to be able to deliver 400 and 500 Black African people to those European countries.
Yeah.
There's a movie done called Asiento.
Yeah.
In Asiento, they talk about
Yeah.
1428.
Yeah.
But even prior to that, Asientos need a contract to deliver slaves.
Yeah, slave. On per basis.
But even before 1428, they were delivering Black African people
Yeah.
without contracts, which probably you could say was illegal. But I don't know if you want to say that was illegal.
No, what illegal?
Because the Europeans, they all agreed that it was okay, to do that to Black people.
Okay, but it was illegal because black people did not consent to what was happening to them.
So
That was
said,
illegal.
so after 1428, you said it was Black people consented to that?
No, black people did not consent to anything. The only area that one can say that black people agreed was the context of communication, a good smooth relationship, hoping that these guys that we are interacting with are good people.
Which they wasn't. They was all like.
I can come here and ask you, I
They
said,
was all
give
like
me
the women.
Mali, and Niger, and Yafe,
Right.
to go and help me out to build my house.
Right. Yeah.
Where's your house at? I said, I live in Fort Washington.
Okay.
Okay, when my boys, because during the summertime, they like the one they do, uh, uh, before winter, we took the sons.
Right. Yeah.
When they took him, and they took him to jail, and it's time for the sheriff property, he was not present.
Yeah.
The wife was doing the bar herself.
Right.
And
Yeah.
the boy,
Her and
they
the children. Yeah.
okay, well,
Yeah,
the older
the
son,
right.
yeah, the older son went to look for the daddy.
Yeah.
Okay, now take that and then look at that as a data
Right.
or to talk about what we're talking about. Okay, the hit of me, say, how much, I mean,
Right.
to go and help us out.
Yeah.
All right. It's a good, smooth transition. Okay, hoping that they are good. That was my heart to them.
Right.
All right. My wife is a Sally would get upset because you're gone. It's too long.
Yeah. Then come back.
I'm facing problems with my wife. But who can I get in touch with? This guy didn't go straight where you were telling me about. He got a big old ship in the sea.
Right.
I didn't go to look in.
Right.
Because maybe before he got to my coast, or to my sea coast,
Right.
he had people down down there. None of the chief, the elders, ever went to look into that ship. No.
None of the elders.
No, none of the elders ever went to look at some of the things. No. No elders ever went to look at.
How come they wouldn't do that? I don't understand why. Because what they trusted in the
They trust in the white folks so much. They trust in them because the white folks what they brought to them. Stop them to get behind them. Black people never ate sugar in the absence of this honey from the bees and the tree before.
Okay.
Cute. To keep it thin.
Right.
Syrup in the bottom.
Right. Yeah.
Shoes. You know I saw that before.
We never had sugar before.
All right. All right. For you to see that. Coming to you without putting down wood.
Yeah.
Without putting down things.
Right.
Because that's a big thing in your life.
Man,
Without cutting wool to put some rope and make shoes, you just a shoe made. It's a big thing in your life.
Man, that's diabetes and the black culture is because prior to captivity, we knew nothing about sugar at all.
No.
Now the
The
white
sugar was
sugar
bad.
is an issue.
Oh, it's an issue because we thought it was good and it's sweet and it's faster, it can be easily gotten and stuff like that. So those are some of the explanations of how sign language came to be and what the origin of sign language. The origin of sign language actually started from the excruciating circumstances of black people from my perspective because it is from black perspective that I emerge and I know that some language only developed through difficult circumstances. They got no reason to be some language if we can speak it, if we can talk,
Yeah, right.
if we can say.
If you can communicate with the words, you don't need sign language.
All right.
But if you're in captivity, you might need to use sign language so that those who are present, you don't know what's going on.
All right. But then, though, because if you and I were speaking the same dialect, if you and I were speaking the same language,
Right.
I used to use dialect. Dialect is to marginalize the language you speak.
Dialect.
It is dialect.
If somebody say you speaking in dialect.
No, because they don't want you to speak anything like English.
Right, yeah.
And the reason why they say English is because it can be written and spoken.
Yeah.
But they don't want you to say Madingo is a language.
Right.
Because they say Madingo is marginalized, cannot be written, cannot be spoken. But Madingo can be written and be spoken.
Yeah.
Can be written. I can speak and write those things.
Yeah, that's a serious issue with black folks today is that
Right?
they don't think that any black African languages are spoken and written.
Yeah.
So because they don't see it
In the book.
and then I should like
In the
really
school.
and then the issue should be pointing to those black Africans born in the U.S. because the U.S. black Africans have a serious problem of translating languages outside of the U.S. or European languages. Blacks born in the U.S. are taught to translate other European languages like Spanish, French, Portuguese, German, anything that comes out of Europe. So, as a result of that, if you put a black African language in front of them, for the most part, they would have a problem with it because they never saw that before. Even if in some way, shape, form, or fashion, those European languages, were relative to the African languages, black people wouldn't be able to see it because they've been taught that black languages are inferior.
Yeah.
So when you go to take a course in class, you take French, Spanish, German,
Yeah.
Latin, anything from the European
Yeah.
culture. But when it comes to black culture,
Yeah.
if you tell them, well, maybe you ought to take the African language, they won't even try.
Yes. You want to ask why? Because African languages are not registered on the United Nations data. They're not universally spoken language in the Western Hemisphere.
So Kiswahili, Mandingo, Kiswahili,
They are insignificant. They are
Swahili, Mandingo, Baha.
No. Swahili actually is a tribe. For them to say Kiswahili is a language.
Okay.
You have to know the difference.
Kiswahili
is a language. Swahili is a tribe.
Okay.
It's a people. I'm a Swahili. I mean, I'm the group.
Right.
Kiswahili is my language.
Okay, all right.
So you are saying the right thing. Kiswahili is a language.
Okay.
Swahili is a people.
So all those people who take the Kiswahili,
yes, they're talking about language.
They're talking about the language.
Yes.
And even so that if they're speaking in Kiswahili, those are some of the very few people that can speak any African language, because most black Africans on the continent of the United States think in terms of urological language. So they don't even see the significance in any black language because they're so tied to the European languages they can't even, they don't even think about translating.
But
I
then
mean, like I took the class Kiswahili. Now it was a full class. I have to admit, the class was full.
I know.
And but even still, that even though it was a full class, and brothers and sisters was there, and then there was a white in the class that
What is that like?
and then they couldn't really they couldn't really like do anything outside of Kiswahili, but the fact that they were there trying to learn Kiswahili was a big deal because most black folks in the U.S. don't think about African languages. They so wrapped up when they want to take an elective language, they pick up Spanish, German. They don't know the English foreign language, so but Spanish, German, or Dutch, something that's definitely European, because that's what we've been conditioned to believe. That's
But
European.
yeah, but my brother, I wish to also submit to you that in Swahili is not spoken in the vast community of Africa. Okay, if I should go it's in the metric system, they got a CGS system, they got an MPS system, they got a metric, we call it metric system. If I put it in a metric system, if I try to equate the percentage of Swahili in the metric system,
Right.
how it relate to African continent, linguistically, Swahili is 1/16 of an inch.
1/16.
The 1/16 of an inch is like the hair in my head. The length of the hair, the thickness of the hair in my head,
Okay.
1/16 of an inch.
1/16.
Millimeter.
So
Millimeter.
So how
That
many?
means that it's too small
Yeah.
to be a fast spoken language on the vast continent of Africa. Only a few countries speak that.
So when you
So
say
it's not
only,
even anything.
so what? So you like Tanzania speak it,
Tanzania,
Tanganyika,
the Kenya,
Kenya,
they speak Swahili in Kenya.
Tanzania.
Tanzania, capital of Tanzania, is Tanganyika, Dar es Salaam, the area.
Okay.
So that you just talking about within the same thing.
Right.
Tanzania they speak Swahili, Kenya they speak Swahili.
Right.
As I said,
Right.
few spots here, there, and things like that. But actually, the west spoken area is Tanzania, Tanzania, Dar es Salaam, is the capital where you live in Nairobi comes from.
Right. Right.
Kenya,
Yeah.
they speak that.
Right.
Relatively, because the two countries on the central East Africa,
Tanzania,
Tanzania, and Kenya.
and Kenya.
That's it.
So how many languages spoken in Africa?
Ooh, man.
1,500.
Huh?
1,500.
More than that, bro. More than that. In Liberia, now over
40 languages.
yes, over 40 languages in Liberia. And in Nigeria, they have a 150.
150 languages.
Yes. But when you add the Nigerian, you only talk Igbo, Hausa, and Yoruba. That's not why it is.
Now for me, with
That's why it is.
yeah, that's not what it is.
That's not why it is.
150 languages. That's a lot.
Different languages in those things. So when you talk about Kenya,
Yeah.
not Swahili, is not the official language in Kenya.
Right. Okay. So Swahili not the official language.
Hell no.
I was reading.
Hell no.
I was reading like.
Tanzania can have Swahili as the official language.
Okay.
Swahili is spoken in Kenya.
All right.
But Swahili is not the official language spoken in Kenya.
Okay.
Because the language that Jomo Kenyatta coming
Right.
from the Kikuyu.
Kikuyu. They don't even speak Kiswahili.
So now, so when European people don't want you to talk about the Kikuyu, because the Kikuyu is the dangerous
They're
and
revolutionary. Yeah.
yes,
Mm-hmm.
that ran the British out of Kenya.
Mm-hmm.
So So white folk will not let you teach Kikuyu in any of the
When you can't
classes
teach cuckoo, you don't. Yeah, not nowhere in the white university.
because it was through the Kikuyu that the Mao were developed.
Okay.
And every white man knows the Mao society.
Okay. Yeah, they do.
Alright.
Because the Mau
So
ran them
I
out of
just want to
kingdom.
tell you those things
Yeah.
so that we can highlight what we're talking about.
Yeah, yeah. And see, and that's good to know. So that we will be able to know the story, the black story of the languages in Africa.
Yes.
Over 150 of them
Yeah,
in Kenya alone.
More than that. More than that, because one language
So are they interrelated?
Yes. Pellet has about 4 or 5 different pellets into one pellet. Bar has 2 or 3 different bars into one bar. Dribble has 2 or 3 different dribbles into one dribble. Lawman has 8 different lawmen into one lawman. So you cannot say Liberia have a 26 tribes and this is not that's not real.
So if you get
That's not right.
Grable spoken,
Gribble.
and
Maryland County,
the
Farmers.
Farmers,
Yeah.
and you got Mandingo spoken,
In Lofa area,
and
Lofa
Lofa,
County,
and what would be another like
Bel
Bella,
in Bone County.
and you got them spoken in both counties. They not necessarily spoken in Kenya.
Uh-huh. Kenya.
Now all of those
Well,
languages,
these languages that you just talk about,
yeah,
they are spoken in Liberia.
yeah, but
So people in Liberia do not understand people from Kenya.
oh, they don't understand.
Hell no.
Like the language not interrelated. They can't, contact
Now,
each other.
the only interrelated languages how to be in the country.
Okay.
So borrow one from you,
yeah.
then I. But you can't borrow one from you and it has to be European language that is borrowed from one thing to another in the country. Because French that's spoken in Cameroon, French that is spoken in Togo, French that is spoken in Guinea, French that is spoken in Guinea-Bissau, can be the same French that's spoken in Paris.
In Paris.
Yes. But the
you gotta speak impeccable, so-called impeccable French.
The Arabic that is spoken in some other area has to be Saudi Arabia because I was speaking Saudi Arabia Arabic.
Man, that's the Arab. We just got so much confusion on the
And it's so complex. So to avoid that, you just be black, man, and keep all this shit out of the way.
Yeah.
Those things they just sweep in the broom and put it in the trash can and go and see black people coming up.
Now, with the just like we just be black people, and throughout Africa, that is definitely a plus because then we all connect. But there are those who don't see black as even an attainable identity because they've been so
Additionally,
yeah,
also
supposed to
negative
yeah,
black.
yeah,
Because I know good is a complete testament.
just
Of that.
negative to black altogether.
Because he went to the definition.
Yeah. You think Victor Nanungo got his EDD now?
No, I don't think so because he can't be talking that black in Texas Southern. Do it wrong in other things.
No.
He can't go to an overload
Yeah,
black.
because Texas Southern had a white as
The president, after the bird died, they killed the bird on the spring crop down there in Stowe. I was there. The bird died, I told you that.
yeah,
They killed the president.
Yeah, they killed the president of
Texas Southern.